Moving on now, though, and also making headlines, an unidentified man has died after being tasered by police in central Sydney yesterday. And today, a man was hospitalised in Brisbane after also being tasered.
It's unclear as to the involvement of this man or the extent of that actual incident. Whether it is a robbery or not is unclear at this time.
What New South Wales Police could confirm, a man they're yet to formally identify is dead. He was capsicum sprayed, then tasered after allegedly resisting arrest in the early hours of yesterday morning. Today it emerged his biggest crime may have been stealing a packet of biscuits. It's raised again the question of whether tasers are actually an appropriate tool for fighting crime.
The taser was introduced to enable the police to use the taser instead of the gun. That's no longer its use. It's being used in ordinary, everyday, mundane policing situations across the country.
Tasers are considered a non-lethal alternative to firearms. They deliver an electric current through two dart-like electrodes connected to the main unit. It affects neuromuscular incapacitation, literally stopping people in their tracks. It's hard to argue against anything that prevents a police shooting, but critics are concerned officers are reaching for their stun guns as a first line of defence rather than exhausting all other options. So when non-lethal weapons increasingly kill, are the checks and balances in place to protect both the police and the people they serve?
New South Wales Green spokesperson on justice, David Shoebridge, is not convinced that tasers are a great idea, and he joins us now. David, what's the problem for you here? Is it tasers or is it police officers?
Well, the real problem is tasers. When they were rolled out here in New South Wales from 2008 onwards, the rhetoric from the Premier of the time and the police was that they would displace the use of firearms. But the statistics have been damning. Firearm use has hardly changed. Police are still drawing their firearms as often as before. Only now they're also drawing tasers about 1,200 times a year.
Well, as you said, so the guidelines say that tasers should be used as the step before firearms in high-risk situations. In this situation, we saw the CCTV vision. The man was running away. In your opinion, is this the appropriate use of the taser?
I'm not going to comment on the individual case that's going to go before the coroner's report here in New South Wales. But what we have seen increasingly is rather than tasers being the second last or one of the last options, they're increasingly being pulled out by police as one of the first responses to a potentially violent scene. And that means many citizens are being exposed to 50,000 volts needlessly and inappropriately.
David, I know you're not a medical expert, but can you can you explain how people are dying from these supposedly non-lethal weapons?
Well, the truth of the matter is they're not non-lethal weapons. All of the studies show that there's a proportion, albeit a small proportion, of people who, when they're struck by 50,000 volts, will die. One of the key causes of death is cardiac arrest. And in fact, the manufacturer makes an explicit warning not to fire it at the chest because of cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, police guidelines here in New South Wales don't make the same prohibition.
But you're not saying no to tasers, you're just saying police need better training.
Well, no, we support the 2008 Ombudsman's recommendation, which was not to roll out tasers to all general duties police, but to reserve them for highly trained specialised squads who can be called in when needed to de-escalate situations and will have the training and the competence, as well as the teamwork, to know when to pull out a taser and when not.
Now, this is really a crime-fighting trend that we got from the States. It was thought of as a non-lethal solution to our problems, but I believe even that's being re-evaluated over there.
Well, Amnesty International, as recently as February of this year, reported the 500th death in a decade from taser use in jails and arrests by law enforcement in the United States. Admittedly, they're much more heavily into taser use, particularly in their jails in the United States, than we are here. But even that statistic, 500 accredited deaths from law enforcement taser use in the United States, shows these are not non-lethal. They carry a substantial risk of killing people.
Well, David, thanks very much for speaking to us tonight.
No, it's a pleasure. Good speaking.
Now, New South Wales Police have been very quiet on this today, but there's been some unverified reports tonight that eyewitnesses claim the man was tasered 4 times after being heavily restrained and that his final words were, "Help me, help me." That's being reported online with some newspapers tonight.
I'm sure we'll hear more about that over the next few days, but right now we've got to take a break.